We knew early on that we wanted to make something special with the talisman to both pay homage to the original game, but also to get a cool item for the player to. It ends up being a way to open up gates to other worlds. Our talisman looks quite different. It's updated, but we still kept a lot of the design of the original for an item called the toy talisman that you can find later in the game as well. That is used to activate hidden ending.
I think it's meant to hold the talisman. I'm not sure what numbers I should use. Maybe there's something in Jeremy's notes. What's that picture in the glass? Where is that?
Remember the toad in the beginning?
Miss Jackson's seance room is the oldest surviving room in the production. It was a part of what was called a proof of concept that was done during 2019. And I think it's a neat place, but for us developers, it's probably more dear than to the regular player.
Oh, I recognize this talisman. We had almost the same in the first version of the game. And this talisman is quite a special item because it is animated. Not all items you can find were animated, but this one.
Good to see you again, Miss Hartwood. Mrs. Thompson told me you were here. She also alerted me that you brought a detective with you. I'm very curious to hear what this is all about. You don't remember me, do you, Miss Hartwood? We met at your family's house in the Garden District, when your uncle was about to be admitted under my care.
No, I remember. Sorry. I'm not really feeling well.
Oh, well, in that case, have a seat. Let me make you a drink. I don't seem to have made much of an impression on you. On the other hand, I can vividly recall you and your parents.
Because of our cheerful disposition, I'm sure.
You are far too intelligent to think that. You come from a joyless family, Miss Hartwood. The only amusement I took from my visit was discovering that the young lady's drink was an old-fashioned.
Very astute. Is that supposed to make you seem attentive or intelligent?
Whatever you prefer. Are you ready to tell me why you are here, Miss Hartwood? And why you brought a detective?
I received a letter from my uncle. He seemed certain that he was in danger here. If I find out you're treating him badly, I'll be taking him back with me to New Orleans.
Really? Is he going to live with you in your tiny garçonniere? That would be a spectacular way to ratify your spinsterhood. Because you are well aware that your father would never let him back in his house. No, I have it. Maybe you can bring him back up north. You've been wanting to move back for quite a few years, haven't you? You always preferred your mother's side of the family. Jeremy is free to leave with you. I won't object. However, there is one problem, as you might have learned. He is, in fact, missing.
Do you know where he could have gone?
No, I'm afraid I don't. I have my staff looking for him. I'm sure he will show up eventually, especially if he learns that you are here. He is quite fond of you.
What can you tell me about his condition? I never heard a proper diagnosis. What is your medical opinion of him?
Well, let me think. He is an anxious man, depressed, even. He suffers from a perceived lack of order in his inner and outer life. He constantly complains about events not presenting themselves according to their divine nature.
And the Dark Man?
Hard to tell if it was ever anything specific. Jeremy uses the Dark Man as a psychological scapegoat to avoid facing the truth that he is in any way at fault.
You don't think there can be any truth to the Dark Man's supernatural existence?
Why would you ask that?
Can we ever be sure?
If the Dark Man is some sort of evil presence that is in possession of Jeremy,
Well,
I assure you, any evidence that you experience supporting that claim is purely delusional. Don't get caught up in mass hysteria, Miss Hartwood. You wouldn't want to take your uncle's place in this hospital, would you?
I'll be leaving now, Doctor. I need to keep looking for my uncle.
Do so, Miss Hartwood. I'll let you know if he shows up.
Detective Carnby! God, I'm glad to see you. I was afraid you had left.
Me? You're the one who just disappeared.
It's hard to explain. I think I blacked out. It was like I went somewhere else.
It's okay, miss. You're clearly upset.
No, I don't know what's happening.
This is a very stressful situation for you, I understand.
Ugh, no, you don't understand.
Just take a deep breath. Why don't you sit down, smoke some of the Perique? If you want, I could even drive you back to New Orleans. I just want to have a talk with Dr. Gray first.
I want to stay. I found a talisman just like the one in the painting. I think I might be able to figure out where Tarawea is, where Jeremy wanted to go.
That's great. Just stay out of trouble, okay? Let me handle the investigation.
I'm not crazy, Detective. Not yet.
Okay, catch you later.
If a talisman like this can open up doors between the French Quarter and Derceto, then maybe Jeremy is hiding in some strange other world. Like Tarawea. The place...
To help guide the player to see which key fits a lock, we try to incorporate some common design denominators on both the lock and the key. And hopefully it makes it easier for the player to see. And at the same time keep it very grounded in the era.
One of the most important clues you find in this room is the newspaper, which both talks about the era, which is, of course, the 1930s, the Depression, and we also learn about the place that we're in Louisiana with talk of John's Eve and the voodoo and the cults. We sort of set up that whole notion of that this is something that will come later. But we also present Cassandra Beauregard, which is our narrator and one of the guests here at Derceto.
Paul, you're right about the plates on the boiler and the clock. They have been sabotaged, and I think I know who did it. They have something to do with Jeremy's episodes and how he seems to disappear at night. Right now, it's important that you keep an eye out for any of the pieces. I want to find out if I can repair the plates. Let me know if you find any of them. Lottie.
Tell Lottie to take a look at the well in the kitchen garden. Dr. Elmore Lee Gray is Derceto's chief doctor. Accounting and all administrative work is handled by me, Paul Waits. Magdalena Thompson, or Mags, is responsible for the household. Jean-Baptiste and Charlotte Tabois are responsible for keeping the guests' medical regimens in check. Finally, Jack Chance is our gardener, who can occasionally be seen in the conservatory, but is for the most part busy outside. There are currently 6 guests at Dossetto. Malcolm McCarthy and Ruth Tallant reside on the first floor. Jeremy Hartwood, Elisabetta Perosi, Grace Saunders, and of course Cassandra Beauregard live on the second floor.
Saw your notice in the boiler room. You should know Mr. Chance won't be coming back. I got no business being in there myself, but you can take a valve from the wine cellar if you want to try to stop the steam pouring out. Be careful.
Interesting. It's all the patient files except for Jeremy's. Looks sturdy. Doubt I'll be opening this.
Cassandra Beauregard, the beloved author. Very exciting, isn't it? What do you want to put down for reason for admission?
What her agent told us. Cassandra suffers from writer's block and needs to finish her moving picture script before the end of...
Looks sturdy. Doubt I'll be opening this.
Despite making a fool of herself in front of Dr. Gray and Detective Conby, Emily felt surprisingly invigorated. She felt absolutely sure that it was her manipulation of the talisman that had brought her back to Derceto. Jeremy mentioned 2 items in his commonplace book that somehow connected him to 2 more dreams, or whatever they should be called. If Jeremy had 2 more worlds open to him, then maybe he would hide there if he was scared. Or maybe he found a way to Tarawea, the place Jeremy so desperately wanted to visit. Excited to follow up on her clues, Emily set out to find the old clock and the boiler.
Looks sturdy. Doubt I'll be opening this. Looks sturdy. Doubt I'll be opening this. Looks sturdy. Doubt I'll be opening this. Oh wow, I can't believe I guessed the combination. I must be so... kind of genius. I need the key.
As we begin Chapter 2, we allow the player to move a little bit more freely around Derceto and discover more of it. Of course, they start off mostly locked off, but you're able to unlock most of it and get a better sense of what the house is. But of course, we're also keeping some of it a secret for Chapter 4.
The original game was a kind of an early open world. Once you discover a new room or a new floor, you can go back to it. It was not used a lot in the game, but you can.
When we talked about how we should fill up the second floor foyer, we discussed ideas such as a billiard table or some other kind of leisure props. But we went for adding these nightmarish statues you can see here, which is made or sculpted by Jeremy. And they are heavily inspired by Giacometti, Alberto Giacometti. So here we have the first puzzle disc, which is made in Japanese style called kintsugi, which means golden repair, which we thought was pretty picturing for what we wanted to tell with the plate. The golden relief or the repair creates the star sign Taurus, which is something Mike will talk more about in the lore. But it's a very important part of the game.
If you play the original game as Emily Hartwood, the opening text will say, "That creaking old mansion with its unusual tales, its secret library door, the ancient upstairs clock." So the ancient upstairs clock became this puzzle item. And this is pretty much how a lot of the important things in our game came to be. Basically looking at something that was mentioned or featured in the original game and then blew it out of proportion and made something new with it.
And actually, in the original game, there was a clock that you need to push to discover an item, like in the first Resident Evil, by the way.
Jeremy's room. All back to normal.
Emily's here. Emily's here.
You will find a lot of masks throughout the whole game. You can find them in Jeremy's room, and of course Grace is making one for Ruth. And this is an important item or ID, the ID that everyone is wearing masks in some way, especially the people at Derceto. They all have secrets and they don't want to share everything. So they put on masks, hide their true selves. And of course, it's a very clear metaphor. But for all the Lovecraftian nerds out there, it's of course also a very, very clear clue that we're dealing with Nyarlathotep, which in our game is sort of, he uses the Dark Man or the Black Pharaoh, that type of avatar. And that's how he carries on the dialogue with Jeremy and how he also, of course, mentally tortures him.
For Baptiste's room, we went with a really rough patina, and because he is a big guy, he's very practical and stoic, and he also likes to box a lot, and he has his leisure things. He reads his magazines, listens to his radio, and smoking cigars. And yeah, so we try to get that going in his room.
The Astarte Artist Colony. I'm pretty sure they had a Mardi Gras crew called the Pirates of Pontchartrain when I was a child.
The simple astrology cipher was a fake. The old clock was an intricate machine with eccentric astronomic motifs, but nothing appeared particularly unusual to Emily. The old clock was an intricate machine with eccentric astronomic motifs, but nothing appeared particularly unusual to Emily. But then she discovered a large decorative plate that reminded her of Miss Jackson's ritual bench, where she had configured the talisman to open the door back to Derceto. The clock's plate had unfortunately been sabotaged, but if she could piece the plate back together, she figured she would be able to repeat the procedure and maybe open up to another world. The simple astrology cipher was a favorite among the artists who lived in the house 20 years ago. They easily turned into numbers when needed, but also acted as signatures for the members, as there were only 12 of them.
Will I need to remember how to get them out again? They are locked up for good reason. I am sure she is still able to whisper the answer in the ears of the wrong people. But not for long. I will see her burned soon enough. That black goat will be sacrificed to put an end to it all. Then it will all be over. No more Terceto, and sadly, no Astarte. Those good pirates of Pontchartrain. May you still sail the lake, until you find the shores of Hali.
In contrast to Baptiste's room, which is very simple and rough, we have Peros's room, the opera singer, and she is very vain and she is focusing much on her beauty. And we have the centerpiece of the bed with the bed canopy, and we try to get as much as possible of the music into her set dressing. And of course, some of the furnitures are Italian inspired. And her colors would be terracotta and cream and earthy.
I did it! I crossed the thresholds to my intended destination without a focusing device. My talisman now knows these roads, and I have no need for the plates. I can find my way to Lafayette as easy as I find my own room. I visited the grave of my father and seen the oven waiting for me. Thank you for opening these doors. I now must summon my courage and go back to that hateful mound outside the oil rig. I hope you'll be feeling better when I return. Jeremy.
Here we go.
Suddenly, Jeremy's bleak dreamscape devoured Emily, drowning her in dread and darkness, only to moments later spit her out again. What had happened, and why? Was that her doing, or did someone else make it so?
There's some aggressive-looking rot on these paintings.